Hello, you're listening to Metal Verbalizers, and I am Johan. And today I will verbalize Diabology. Diabology is a 4-piece thrash metal band from Los Angeles, USA, that was founded in 2016. Some influences that Diabology has named is, of course, bands like Metallica and Megadeth, which probably doesn't come as such of a surprise for a thrash band to be influenced by them. But some bands that they also mentioned that kind of surprised me a little bit was Trivium and Mastodon. And then they are also influenced by Machine Head, which once again isn't super surprising, but I think it was really cool that they mentioned bands like Trivium and Mastodon, because there is some bands that you don't usually, at least I haven't heard many thrash bands to, explicitly mention bands like Trivium and Mastodon as very big influences like that. So that was something that made me really interested, immediately, that they decided to mention those bands as very, very big influences. Even though Diabology is not a very theme-based band, or how you want to call it, but they do use a lot of fantasy-based imagery to kind of express themselves in their lyrics. I think to kind of summarize the overall sound that Diabology kind of sounds like, at least in my ears, I would say that they're kind of a little bit reminiscent of stuff like I can hear some Warbringer in there once in a while, and I can also definitely hear some stuff like Ex Mortis in their sound. I don't think that Diabology sounds like those bands, but I can definitely hear some things here and there. They're kind of thrash metal that has a lot of death metal influences in it. For example, when it comes to Diabology, they don't usually play that very fast. Their songs aren't super fast. But I can definitely hear some death metal influences in there as well, and they are also, I think, Diabology is really good at implementing a little melody in it as well, and I think they're very successful in kind of doing that, implementing the melody parts with the death metal kind of influences. Or how you want to say it. To kind of summarize it, I think, regarding their sound and the kind of approach that at least I think they're kind of going for, is that if you like thrash metal meets death metal, and that kind of meeting a lot of melody like that, I think that you will certainly love Diabology. I think that in that case, Diabology is definitely for you. Diabology isn't a band with that much of an image, if you say, on stage shows and stuff like that. They're basically, the kind of classic kind of denim sneakers, t-shirt, and just going for it kind of thrash band. Which is, kind of stuff that I'm personally a very big fan of. When bands kind of have that, not that a very heavy image-based band is necessarily a bad thing, but I really like the kind of feeling you get from bands like Diabology. For example, if you see them live or look at a live video of them, it's really that kind of as I said, that kind of really classic simplistic thrash look, you know, which I think is really great. And you know, like, I think partly why I like that so much is that you kind of get the idea that by having that kind of style, a band is kind of letting the music speak for itself, if you know what I mean. And I think that kind of like that feeling you get from that is really cool, in my opinion. And I think that Diabology is a great example of that. Really, you know, a band that basically lets the music speak for itself, and they do it really well. I guess I could make a little comment about the band's album covers as well. Overall, Diabology has really great album covers, in my opinion. They all follow a kind of similar thing by looking kind of really comic style to them, which I think is really cool. It's like one of them having a sort of reaper riding a horse through a burning city. Like one of them has a corpse climbing out of a grave, and then a third one has like a pirate holding a bloody sword by like a bunch of decapitated heads and stuff like that. And then like a fourth example is you know, kind of like a hybrid between a man and a cobra. There's like huge in a big sea with like what looks like an exploding volcano in the background. It's like it's really, you know, kind of dramatic, if that's the right word for it. But I think these are the kind of like album covers that definitely caught my attention, and it's like part of what kind of gets my attention, I think, is that you don't really exactly know what to expect. You know, with the Diabology's logo with like the inverted, you know, pentagram and that stuff, you know, you kind of expect it to be something somewhat heavy at least, but you don't quite know. And I think that is something that I think is pretty cool. At least that's pretty cool in my opinion. That it's like you kind of know that it's something serious, but you can't really put your thumb on it. Which I think that kind of when you get that idea, I think that is something that really makes you want to press play to really check out what that is. So I think that's definitely a positive thing, and I think it's kind of like that, being able to give the listener that kind of thought and idea. I think that's really cool that Diabology is doing here. To kind of like discuss their releases a little bit. The band released their debut full-length in 2020, titled Nobody Believes Me. And the same year, a little bit later, they released 3 singles, which were titled The Softest Grave, Black Blood, and Wraith. All 3 songs which can be found on the band's next album, actually, which, as a matter of fact, was released just a few days before I am recording this episode, actually. So it's very new. And that album was, well, it was released in 2022, and they titled it Father of Serpents. And thus I would highly encourage you, all of you who are listening to this episode, to check this album out, and then make sure to let Diabology know what you think of it. I think that Father of Serpents is definitely a good example of the kind of thing I explained earlier with the Diabology's sound. You know, how they really implement the thrash metal with the death metal, and applying a lot of melodies on that. So if you kind of want to really see what I mean with that, I think Father of Serpents, again, it's the newest album, so you should absolutely check it out because of that. You should check it out because it's a great album, and Diabology is generally a great band, in my opinion. And it's also a great example of the kind of like sound I referred to earlier. I believe it is time to wrap things up. I appreciate you listening, and if you like this episode, make sure to follow Metal Verbalizers, and we will give you more tips like this. If this episode results in you checking this band out, then please tag us and let them know that we were the ones who sent you to them. We would appreciate it a lot, and we will be back to you soon with another verbalization.